Welcome to the Pub Sports Radio Ian Cameron Sports Report for Monday, October 26th. It is a brand new week set to get underway. But before we get into what's about to happen, we always, on Mondays on this show, look back at the weekend that was in NFL and college football. So let's start with NFL Week 7. What a week. And I've been watching and betting NFL. I've been watching NFL I'm 35. I've probably been watching the NFL consistently for 20 to 25 of those years. I don't know if I've seen a final hour of the 1 o'clock p.m. Eastern slate of games be as nuttier, as more batshit crazy, as insane, as dramatic, as intense, and as exciting as I saw yesterday. The games at 1 o'clock p.m. Eastern time were flat out off the charts in terms of drama, point spread drama, total drama, just straight up win-loss result drama. We had it all going at 1 o'clock yesterday. Let's start with the battle of undefeated teams. It was 5-0 Pittsburgh, 5-0 Tennessee going into yesterday. Now, the total is fascinating because Pittsburgh ends up with the 27-24 win. First half, they dominated. Give the Steelers credit. Both sides of the ball, Ben Roethlisberger and the offense chewed up the Titan defense in the first half. They couldn't stop the Steelers. Very balanced attack, running the ball, Ben Roethlisberger throwing it down the field. And then this time it wasn't Chase Claypool in the starring role at wide receiver. It was Deontay Johnson. Hell of a day for him, for the Steelers in the receiving game. But it was just dominance. They shut down and neutralized Ryan Tannehill and Derrick Henry. Derrick Henry didn't do a thing in the first half running the football. In fact, he really didn't get anything going on the ground for the Titans until the fourth quarter, which I think you could have said was probably also a product of the the Pittsburgh Steelers defense slowing down a little bit, getting a little bit tired. But other than that, I got to give a hell of a lot of credit to Mike Tomlin's team for the job they did defensively, stopping the run. And to be honest with you, it's been like that all season long with the Pittsburgh Steelers. They've been one of the better teams in the NFL defensively in terms of against the run. They showed it yesterday. Second half, obviously, maybe they took their foot off the gas with a big halftime lead, and certainly Tennessee's offense is never out of the game. Ryan Tannehill got some drives going. The Pittsburgh offense stalled a little bit, but when the Steelers had to move the ball, they did. And when they had to get a stop at the end, they did. Although thanks to a Ryan Gostowski missed field goal at the end, Pittsburgh hangs on to win 27-24. And the game, either you cashed an over, you pushed, or you might have even slipped out of there with an under, depending on when you bet that total, because it was 51.5 at a time. It closed 51. And there were also some 50.5s out there. So the total could have went one of all three ways for you. You could have been an over, could have been an under, could have been a push, depending on when you bet it. The Steelers, though, get the money with the 3-point win. Really good performance from the Steelers, and they've got another big game on deck. We'll preview it later this week with them and the Ravens, but good win for the Steelers there. A big bounce-back win for Aaron Rodgers and the Green Bay Packers, 35-20 against Houston. More of the same for the Texans defense. Couldn't stop Aaron Rodgers. Even with Aaron Jones out at running back, even the Packers able to run the football, but most of the damage was through the air. Davante Adams, what more can you say? Nearly 200 receiving yards. He was targeted double digits. He had double digits in terms of receptions in the victory for the Packers. And Houston, again, I feel bad for Deshaun Watson. He played well. He played well for most of that game. Unfortunately, the defense couldn't stop the Packers and puts him and that Texans offense in such a bind where they feel like they got to score just a ton of points just to have a chance. But Green Bay bouncing back off the loss against Tampa Bay with the dominant double-digit win against Houston, 35-20 yesterday. That game does stay under the total. Barely. It got close near the end. And in fact, not for Houston not turning it over in the final minute, there might have been a chance to get a touchdown to send that game over the total, but it barely stays under. Green Bay gets the win. They don't ask how, they ask how many in terms of winning football games during an NFL season, and they're not going to want to know how for the Buffalo Bills yesterday. 18-10 over the sad sack, winless, pathetic, hapless, whatever word you want to use, New York Jets. Not a pretty game for the Bills. There's issues with Buffalo. I mean, you watch this team now weekly. Defense Played good in the second half. I don't think they played that good in the first half. I will give them credit, though. Maybe not too much credit because it is the Jets, but the defense shut down Sam Darnold in the second half. The pressure got home. They rattled his cage. He fumbled the ball a couple times, sacked him multiple times, intercepted him late to seal the game. But what's the excuse for the Bills offense settling for 6 field goals yesterday against the New York Jets defense? What's up with that? This is an offense that had been absolutely firing on all cylinders, for much of this season. Now, all of a sudden, 2 weeks in a row, Kansas City, they didn't really move the ball a ton, struggled in that game to get things going. Same thing here. Red zone offense is all of a sudden becoming a big issue for the Buffalo Bills, and that's something you're going to want to keep an eye on with this team moving forward. Kind of an alarm bell for me that the Buffalo offense only puts up 6 field goals against the New York Jets in that game yesterday. So really, and because of that, they don't get the point spread cover. This is a game they probably could have easily won by double digits if they have any sort of decent red zone efficiency with the football yesterday, but just didn't happen. Nevertheless, ugly win, probably as ugly as it gets, but the Bills will take it to snap their 2-game losing streak, 18-10. Jets get their first, and I mean first point spread cover of the season. They are now 0-7, but straight up, but at least now they can say they are 1-6 against the number. They finally cash a ticket for their backers in that 18-10 loss to the Bills yesterday. What can you say about the Atlanta Falcons at this point that hasn't been said already? They have that knack for just snatching defeat from the jaws of victory. They did it again, 23-22 Detroit. Todd Gurley forgets the time, the score, the situation, decides, you know what, I'm going to fall forward into the end zone and score a touchdown when I really should have stopped at the 1, allowed my offense the chance to run the clock down to 2 seconds left, kick the game-winning field goal, and get the victory. Instead, he falls into the end zone. Touchdown Falcons does give them the lead, 22-16, but it gives the Detroit Lions over a minute to come back down the field and score what would have been a game-winning touchdown. And, of course, that's exactly what happened. Why? Because it's the Atlanta frickin' Falcons. That's why. The Detroit Lions ended up coming right down the field. Matt Stafford, a really good drive, a great catch by Kenny Golladay to set them up inside the 10 in the final seconds. And then sure enough, there's Matt Stafford finding TJ Hawkinson with no time on the clock. Final play of the game. Touchdown, extra point good, and Detroit sends Atlanta home with another bitter loss, 23-22, in a season littered with heartbreaking and gut-wrenching losses for the Atlanta Falcons. They just put another notch on that belt yesterday. Stunning. Another loss in horrendous fashion by the Atlanta Falcons, 23-22. And the first loss for the Falcons under Raheem Morris since he replaced the dismissed Dan Quinn as the head coach of the Falcons on an interim basis, at least for now. Some other results we saw, Tampa Bay Bucks, 45-20 over Las Vegas, back-to-back blowout victories against Green Bay and Las Vegas for this Bucks team. I've never seen Tom Brady throw the football better since 2 years ago than I saw him in that game yesterday, than what he did. That was as good as I've seen. Like Tom Brady, last year, I didn't think he had that many good games with New England. This year so far with Tampa Bay, I think he had some decent games, but that vintage, pinpoint accurate, just tear up an opposing defense, Tom Brady through the air. I haven't seen that Tom Brady in a couple of seasons. Boy, did I see that yesterday. That was really, really impressive stuff from Brady. His best game in a long time. Great throws. The throw to Scotty Miller in the end zone yesterday. And a deep ball. Not a huge, like a 70 or 80-yard deep ball, but that was a 40-plus yard touchdown throw, if I'm not mistaken, to Scotty Miller. It was right on the money, right in the corner of the end zone. It was one of the better throws I've seen from Tom Brady in a long time. Lots to be excited about for Tampa Bay. Now with, Mike Evans didn't even do a whole lot yesterday, but Chris Godwin stepped up. Scotty Miller made big plays. Oh, and a certain guy by the initials of AB is coming into the fold next weekend for the or pretty soon, I should say, for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Not this weekend, but the following weekend against the Saints in Antonio Brown. So another weapon added to the mix. And how about the Bucs defense? I mean, their defensive front, this is now 2 weeks in a row. I've talked about how they've been able to get pressure on opposing quarterbacks. That's a good defensive front right now. And they're being aggressive and they're getting after it right now. They harassed Derek Carr. Talked about it on the show last week, the Ian Cameron Sports Report, about how Las Vegas with Trent Brown diagnosed with COVID-19. The offensive line, a couple guys were isolated and held out due to that as well for this game. And you could see it was a big matchup edge for Tampa Bay. They kind of feasted on that O-line, especially in the second half when they really neutralized that Raiders offense for the most part and forced Derek Carr, into pressured throws, which is when he made those mistakes, including the interception to pretty much seal the game in the fourth quarter. And again, those Raiders offensive line concerns definitely going to want to be something you keep an eye on going in to next week's action. We keep on moving on down the road here. San Francisco 49ers 33-6 over New England. Easy win and cover for the 49ers. Just an embarrassment for the New England Patriots. That is a staggering result for New England, because when you lose outright at home to Denver like you did last week as more than touchdown favorites, and you're at home the next week, that's supposed to be a response game. That's supposed to be a step-up spot. That's your step-up game. That's your game to stop the bleeding. That's your game to have a much better, focused, more intense, better performance on the field. In fact, they were even worse than they were last week against Denver. That was just domination. San Francisco moved the ball at will. And the one thing New England's had a pretty solid group this year is with their defense, and it fell apart even yesterday. Could not stop Jimmy Garoppolo. You got to give Kyle Shanahan a lot of credit. He schemed his butt off yesterday and totally out-coached, out-prepared, out-schemed Bill Belichick. And that is a rarity. You don't see that every day. That's exactly what happened. No Raheem Mostert, no problem. Some guy a lot of people never even heard of comes in there. Jeff Wilson has the game of a lifetime, over 100 rushing yards against the Patriots defense. The bigger issue is their offense. This is now 2 weeks in a row where Cam Newton, or when he plays bad, as I like to call him, and so many others like to call him, Scam Newton, when he plays like that, that is about as ugly as it gets. That was reminding me of his waning days in Kakalaki with the Panthers. Inaccurate, just totally making bad decisions with the football, holding on to the football and taking too many sacks. I'm impressed with the pressure San Francisco's defense got. Think about the fact Nick Bosa and Dee Ford have been injured, and you're still able to influence the pocket from a pass rushing standpoint to the degree that you did against New England. Man, that's really, really impressive stuff from the 49ers. But again, it was a terrible game from Cam Newton, and I worry about this New England offense for sure moving forward. That was supposed to be a game where they bring it, and they did anything but. You better believe that's a concerning, and that's an eye-opener. I think that's kind of that result that makes everyone open up their eyes and finally admit this ain't your uncle's New England Patriots anymore. And I believe Scott Hansen on the Red Zone channel yesterday said something to that effect. He's absolutely right. New England's got problems 2-4, and it looks like, and even Bill Belichick and sounded exasperated, like you don't usually get it much from him anyway in a post-game press conference, but definitely not pleased with the performance of his team yesterday. I was sweating the under in this game as well, and I was just thinking, please get me out of here with this game staying under the total. Even though I was dead wrong about New England's defense being able to neutralize San Francisco, at least I got half the handicap right, saying New England's offense would struggle. They did. But thankfully, Jarrett Stidham came in to relieve Cam Newton, and he threw an interception, which pretty much ruined any chance of that game going over the total. So it stayed under, and San Francisco rolls to a victory over the Patriots. Let's see. Kansas City, Denver, pretty impressive. 43-16 Kansas City. And again, I was telling people too as well, don't just knee-jerk bet unders in these games where you hear snow and icy conditions. The wind was nothing in Denver for that game yesterday. There was no wind. It was very light wind. And sure enough, what did we see? That total went down from 49 to 44. It actually got bet up to 45 before kickoff. I think people realizing maybe this weather's not going to be as bad as people thought. I mean, I gave you this kind of advice last week. I think I said it on the Frenzy show, Football Frenzy as well. Don't just knee-jerk unders with snow games. Don't do it. Don't do it, because it's tough for defenses to get traction. To make those open field tackles when you're having trouble keeping your balance, that's difficult. That's tricky. That's hard. And I think we saw that a lot yesterday. We saw a kickoff return touchdown. I didn't even know those happened anymore in 2020 NFL football. But we saw one in that game because, again, it's even tougher on special teams to tackle when you're slipping and sliding on a slick field. And I think we saw that yesterday. So just keep that in mind. I mean, the wind games, more than the rain games, more than the snow games, the wind games are the ones that worry me when betting overs. Not so much when it comes to rain or snow, but a dominant win for Kansas City. They scored an offensive, defensive, and special teams touchdown yesterday. Yeah, you're not beating them when they do that. All right, Kate, that's just the bottom line right there. You're never going to beat the Kansas City Chiefs when they're scoring in all three phases of the game: offense, defense, and special teams. And of course, they end up rolling over Denver. Not a pretty day for Drew Lock. Very, very tough day for him at the office. The quarterback of the Broncos really struggled yesterday. All right, what else have we got here? How about a thriller in Ohio? The Battle of Ohio, 37-34 Cleveland, pulling out the victory, but comes at a price with the Odell Beckham Jr. Injury, torn ACL, out for the season. Really, really unfortunate. Cincinnati also suffered a couple of offensive line injuries as well in that game. So there were a lot of guys getting knocked out of that game. And Cincinnati with a duct tape and glue patched together offensive line. And here's Joe Burrow still almost leading his team to victory. But the Bengals defense, just a sorry defense right now. They blew a lead against Indianapolis last week. Every time Cincinnati scored to put them ahead in this game, they allowed Baker Mayfield and the Browns to answer right back. Unbelievable catch by Donovan Peoples-Jones, by the way, on the game winner touchdown for Cleveland. However, missed extra point, meaning that if you took Cleveland -3, and I know a lot of people like that side, or you got 3.5, you either pushed or lost because of that extra point. Brutal if you were in that spot. Cleveland, give credit, bounced back. They won. It wasn't pretty. I'll tell you what's not pretty for Cleveland. Yeah, you got the win. Odell Beckham Jr. injury is going to hurt. Baker Mayfield played well still. The offensive line was fantastic. What about the defense? Other than Denzel Ward when he's healthy and Myles Garrett, I don't see any playmakers on that defense. I don't see anybody making a step up, making a play. I don't see them getting a consistent pass rush outside of Garrett. I think their secondary outside of Denzel Ward, is nothing to write home about. There's issues for Cleveland on defense, and we saw that yesterday with that performance against Cincinnati. Carolina, New Orleans. I was happy to see this game end the way it did. 27-24 Saints, but my top play in the NFL yesterday was Carolina plus 8.5 against the Saints for my email subscribers. We went 9-4 overall yesterday in the NFL, so it was a good day overall, and it was highlighted by Carolina plus the points, who pretty much covered this game wire to wire. Thankfully, Teddy Bridgewater came to play. He played a great game. The Carolina offense moved the ball. Thank goodness for that, because if they had a bad day, this Carolina offense, they would have gotten blown out. They could not stop Drew Brees and the New Orleans Saints in this game, which was really surprising, because part of my thought process is, well, you know what? This New Orleans offense is going to suffer a little bit. No Michael Thomas, no Emmanuel Sanders. Thomas still set back with his injury. Emmanuel Sanders, COVID-19 positive test. Arguably your two top receivers, especially Sanders, had been really starting to come around in this offense and play better, make more of an impact with Brees and the Saints offense. Now you lose him too. I'm like, who's going to catch the ball? But Marquez Callaway, an undrafted player, steps up. Alvin Kamara went nuts, had a huge game for the Saints. So the Saints still found ways to chew up a Carolina defense that I thought was starting to play a little bit better. But boy, they took a step back yesterday. They're fortunate again that they had a chance to win thanks to Teddy Bridgewater in the offense. He was making plays again, though. Bridgewater, good throwing the football. DJ Moore had a huge day. Robbie Anderson was good. Curtis Samuel. Mike Davis has stepped up in Christian McCaffrey's absence running the football. McCaffrey might be back, by the way, as early as Thursday night against Atlanta. So that's something you want to keep in mind. But thankfully, Bridgewater, and I figured part of this, my thinking was taking Carolina here, was Teddy Bridgewater would be amped up against his former team, point to prove, and he proved it. Unfortunately, his defense didn't have his back, as it was a rough day for the Panthers on the defensive side of the football. But they were right in the game from start to finish, and they get the money as more than touchdown underdogs in that game against New Orleans, and the game does go over the total of 51 with that 27-24 Saints win. And Sunday Night Football, we got to end there. What can you say? Unbelievable game. 37-34 Arizona pulling it out. Seattle, I had the over last night in this game. It ends up coming in. Thank goodness I didn't bet the side in this one, because I would have just been a nervous wreck, which I know, talking to a lot of people that bet either Seattle minus the points or Arizona plus the points last night in that game. They were a nervous wreck for most of that game. They were they were sweating it out right to the end. But give Arizona credit. They pulled it out. I was impressed, actually, with the Arizona Cardinals. Their defense, I'll tell you right now, their defense was not good for most of the night. But when they needed to make a play, they did. How about the first-round pick, Isaiah Simmons out of Clemson? I love that pick when they made it. I said, this guy's going to be a difference maker. He's going to make Arizona's defense better. He made their defense better last night. Huge interception in overtime to give the Cardinals the ball back and a chance to win that game, which they finally did. And Zane Gonzalez makes up for a missed field goal earlier. The incredible play, of course, by Seattle. Remember to keep an Arizona pick six off the board that was made by DK Metcalf. Unbelievable game it was, back and forth, exciting, momentum swings, and Arizona pulls it out 37-34. And finally, Seattle, with all this close game luck, success, whatever you want to call it, a lot of people call it luck as well, that they've won all these close games. The luck finally ran out last night as Arizona beats them 37-34. I'm going to, change of plans with today's show. I decided, let's go more in depth with the NFL recap. We'll do the college football weekend recap tomorrow on Tuesday's show because, we've got less games to break down, daily on this show. We're gonna talk Bears and Rams in just a second, Monday Night Football. Tomorrow, we'll be talking about Game 6 of the World Series, do or die for the Rays, trailing 3-2. So I'm going to do the college football weekend recap on tomorrow's show, the Tuesday edition of the Pub Sports Radio Ian Cameron Sports Report. So join me for the college football recap tomorrow. We'll stick to just the NFL recap today. And with the NFL on the brain, talking about the weekend that was, let's now shift to Monday Night Football. We have the Chicago Bears and the LA Rams. The Rams 6.5 point favorites, 45 the total. This total is actually going up. It went from 46 down to 44. Now we're seeing it at 45. So there's some over money coming in. And the Rams have taken a little bit of money, 6.5. I don't think I agree with either of these moves. I don't have a strong opinion on the game. I'm not betting this game other than some player props. And by the way, at Bobano on Twitter, we've been rolling with these player props. It's been going well. I appreciate all the feedback and the people's giving me love for posting the props that I do. And any prop I post on Twitter, I bet. It's a prop I bet. So I expect to hopefully do well with these. And we did. We went 5-2 with the Seattle, Arizona props last night. So I'll definitely have a few player props tonight for the Bears and Rams, and I'll post those on Twitter about an hour or two before game time tonight. As far as the side and the total goes, Chicago's defense, you're talking about a defensive dog here, getting almost a touchdown. And that's appealing to me. And it's appealing to me as well because Jared Goff against a good defense, one that can rush the quarterback, one that can collapse the pocket, and the Bears are capable of doing that. That's not the defense that I'm really rushing to lay almost a touchdown with when it comes to Jared Goff. He struggles against pressure, and that's when he makes mistakes. That's when he's sometimes guilty of hanging on to the football too much. These are all things in the back of my mind that I worry about here for the Rams. Some things that are positive in the Rams' favor here, though, is the fact that their defense against Nick Foles can probably create similar issues for him. Like, the Bears are winning games. They're not winning because of their offense. They're not winning because Nick Foles is lighting it up on a weekly basis. He is the true definition right now of a game manager for the Bears, just making the plays when he has to, run the football a lot with David Montgomery and company, and just make sure you keep your team in the game and let the defense do the rest. And for as creative as Matt Nagy was going back to when he coached under Andy Reid in Kansas City, I think he's realizing, what? I'm going to park my ego at the door. I know I'm an offensive guy. That's not the way we're going to win games with this team and this roster, the way it's constructed. We got to be very, very, deliberate offensively, balanced, run the ball, support Foles in that regard, and let our defense do the rest for us. And to be honest with you, it's working for the most part since they got Foles. The defense has been good. They didn't light it up against Tampa Bay in the Thursday night game, but they shut down Brady as much as Brady's been shut down, and as much as the Bucs offense has been shut down by anyone this year. The Bears did it in beating the Bucs. Against Carolina last week, they didn't light up that Carolina defense, which we just saw struggle mightily against New Orleans yesterday. Nick Foles wasn't great in that game, but he did enough. They put enough points on the board, and the defense against a really good Carolina offense, and Teddy Bridgewater, I think, had a good year. And Chicago's defense probably made it Teddy Bridgewater's worst game of the season last week in that Bears road win against Carolina. So this is a really good defense. And Jared Goff against this defense, I'm not ready to lay 6.5. Lean Chicago for me, +6, and I do lean to the under as well with the total at 45. But here's why I didn't bet the Bears. I lean Chicago. It would be the way I would bet it from a side perspective, but it's the second road game in a row. The Rams are coming off a bad performance, one of their worst ones against San Francisco last week. They're finally at home after weeks of travel back and forth, West Coast to East Coast, West Coast to East Coast, and back again. They're finally staying in the West and in the Pacific time zone for 2 straight weeks. It is a get-right spot for the Rams. It's a bet-on spot for the Rams, and it's a really strong spot and a really concerning spot. Chicago off 2 big wins in a row, and now going on the road for a second straight week against the Rams. It's definitely a big spot advantage for the Rams. But again, Jared Goff laying almost a touchdown against a Bears defense that has been pretty damn good these last couple weeks. And then you start to look at the Rams, and who exactly have the Rams beaten this year? That's becoming a story right now. When you analyze this LA Rams football team and you start to realize that in their games so far this season, the Rams, do you know where their wins are against? Their wins are against nothing but NFC least football teams. All 4 LA Rams victories against Dallas, Philadelphia, the New York Giants, and the Washington football team. Those are the 4 LA Rams wins against the worst division in the NFL. That's it. They lost to Buffalo and they lost to San Francisco, the 2 much better teams, I guess you could say, that they faced so far this season. So that's concerning to me. I think the Rams are still a pretty good football team. Tonight, we're going to find out if they're a really good football team. If they lose outright tonight and they look bad in the process, then we've really got to start thinking maybe this is just a paper tiger here, this Rams team. If they drop to 4-3 and then they lose to all the 3 good teams they've played and all 4 wins only against those NFC East, bottom feeders. So it's a big game for the Rams. It's in terms of trying to show that, hey, we can beat a quality foe. I'm going to have to see it before I believe it, especially if you're going to ask the Rams to have to win by a touchdown or more here in this game. So let's go with a lean to Chicago here at +6, +6.5, as well as the under in this game tonight. Monday Night Football, Bears and Rams. Make sure you follow me on Twitter at Bobano. I'll have some player props for this game that I actually will be betting. Unlike the side and total, I will be betting some props for this game tonight, and I'll post those on Twitter in just a bit. That'll wrap it up. Thank you to everyone for tuning in. A reminder, if you're interested in an Ian Cameron capping subscription, $75 a month, all sports. We had a really good football weekend, 9-4 NFL Sunday, 17-11 college football Saturday, 26-15 combined between the 2 NFL and college football this weekend. If you want to subscribe, send an email to bobano350@gmail.com. That'll wrap it up. Thank you to everyone for tuning in to this edition of the Pub Sports Radio Ian Cameron Sports Report. I appreciate the support. We will be back. And make sure you check out pubsportsradio.com for great content and the Pub Sports Radio YouTube channel. There's live shows and content every day on this channel. Great shows, weekly shows, different, not just sports. There's a lot of great content about topics and subject matter outside of sports as well. So Pub Sports Radio YouTube channel, make sure you check that out. Thank you to everyone for tuning in. I will be back with you tomorrow on Tuesday for the next edition of the Pub Sports Radio Ian Cameron Sports Report. On tomorrow's show, we'll do the college football weekend recap, and we'll tee up Game 6 of the World Series. Backs against the wall time for the Tampa Bay Rays as the LA Dodgers will finally look to exercise the demons and finally win and capture this elusive World Series that they have been so close to winning for the last few years. We'll tee up Game 6 World Series on the Tuesday show. Thank you, everybody. Have a great Monday night. Enjoy the Monday Nighter between the Bears and Rams. And I will see you again tomorrow on Tuesday for another edition of the Pub Sports Radio Ian Cameron Sports Report.